Hello and welcome to Sailing Aquarius. If you're just new to our channel, I'm Mark. This is Aquarius, our Beneteau Oceanus 430 sailboat. My wife and I, Kelly, are somewhat knees deep into a refit and upgrade of this 35-year-old boat. And since our last video, a lot has been going on, so let's get you caught up. Okay, so when we left off our last episode, we had just tested out the even stock surface shaver, using it to remove the gel coat and expose the fiberglass below. Well, we carried on using it over the next couple of weeks, in between work and a short trip to Bruges, and doing my Yachtmaster theory course. But we have now pretty much the whole of the starboard side done, and about a third of the port side done. The reason we're using the surface shaver is to expose any blistering or osmosis underneath the gel coat so we can deal with it, and also to give the hull the best chance of drying out, considering our circumstances of not having Aquarius under some kind of cover. We'll carry on with it as it seems to be working well, and when we've the hull done, we'll let it dry out as long as possible before building it all back up again. We've also started opening up large areas of delaminated glass, ready to patch in some new fiberglass, before applying epoxy fern compound to the entire hull, and then we'll sand it fair before applying some layers of epoxy barrier coat, and then anti-fouling. So when we arrived back from our trip to Aquarius after a short break, it looked like a bomb had went off in the saloon. And what happened was, when we were actually away, Dan came to inspect the keel bolts. So of course, access to things on a sailboat is never straightforward. He had to remove the saloon flooring, which had the saloon settee on it, and in the saloon settee there was the water heater within it. This plus all the plumbing had to be disconnected and removed to allow him access to the keel bolts. When we were away, he messaged to say that he had removed one of the bolts and sent us this picture. As you can see, this bolt was rusting and corroded. We're worried all the bolts would be like that, so we asked Dan to pull them all and inspect them. He informed us that the one in the picture was the most corroded one and the others weren't as bad, but nearly all the washers around the bolts were also badly worn and brittle. This could allow movement of the keel or water ingress to get into the keel bolts. So we're glad we took the decision to have the bolts checked. We'd arranged to meet Dan then down at the boat when we returned from our trip and have a chat about the keel bolts.
Pipes is, if you look in here, Mark, you see they've got 20mm. They're 20mm bolts. I don't know. That's about a 25mm hole.
Yeah.
So you have to get sealant in there. So if you're putting these bolts in with sealant down, you're going to end up obviously just a whole pile of sealant in the threads.
Yeah.
If you were to put stud in there, even a good stainless steel, you could actually then fill from the top that hole and put a big washer and then really force the sealant into the hole.
Okay.
So it'd just be a better way of fixing them.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
After discussing this with Dan, he had recommended that we replace the bolts with high tensile strength studs, as that was the more modern way to sort this. So he's going to do that over the next couple of weeks for us. He's just ordered some parts that we're waiting on arriving. But once that's done, that's the safety issue addressed and ticked off our list. When we met Dan, he also explained that the water heater he had removed had some issues. The hoses that ran to and from the engine heat exchanger to the water heater were rigid and cracking. The main issue with this was that there was no cut-off valves within that system, so essentially if one of those hoses broke or burst, there would be no way of stopping the engine coolant from emptying out in the air bilge. So Dan's advice to me was to get the hoses replaced, but to fit ball valves onto each one before refilling the coolant system and trying to start the engine. So I'd actually need to get this sorted pretty quickly, as the marine electrician would be coming in a few days to fit a new engine panel wiring loom, which would allow us to try and get the engine started. So a couple of days ago we took old hoses to a company to get them replaced. They didn't have them in stock, but they eventually got them in, and we've got our new hoses. Okay, so I'll cut the first one about here. Okay, so that's one done. 2 more to go. 3 more to go. So that's our first one, good to go. So that's going to go on like that. The curvature in that pipe is naturally just going to sit perfect where I want it. Tough angle to get in there to get that hose on. I'm just trying to put the second one on now, but it's a bit more awkward because I'm trying to push it up on the pipe underneath here. Okay, so that's the end result. This one I'll clamp onto the side here. This one I don't know what I'm going to do with because of where the outlet is. I had to make this hose quite small, and it therefore is going to be a pain in the ass to turn on and turn off. Well, it should be okay. I wonder if the engine's vibrating. Is this going to rattle? So I'll do something with it, but at least that's it installed for now. And last little bit I'm going to do today is put some coolant in. So I'm just going to use this kind of little hand pump thing. It's like a siphon pump, is for want of a better word. Yeah, it's an awkward position to get into, to the filler cap here, so this should do a good job. So I got the hoses replaced and installed the shut-off bulb valves just in time as the electrician had showed up and started installing the wiring loom.
You want your hand here, like?
Yes, sorry. No, absolutely not, mate. I'll do whatever you need me to do. After a couple of days, the loom was installed and it was time to try and get the engine started. Right round. But unfortunately, the engine didn't turn over. The starter was just clicking. At this point, realised that the large starter battery was duff and needed replacing. It just wasn't holding any charge at all. So I removed the battery and returned a couple of days later with a new battery and got that installed. Damn, that's tough work. Let's get this beast wired up. With the new battery installed, it was time to try and start the engine again. But it still wouldn't start. I had made sure that there was fuel in the tank and went through the process of bleeding the fuel system, but the engine still won't start. And well, that's still where we're at this point. We don't have a running engine and I'm not mechanically savvy enough to know what to do next. So I'll have to get someone that knows what they're doing to have a look at the engine and hopefully we can get it started. But it's not all doom and gloom, guys. We're actually making good progress with the hull. Here's a little flash forward as to where we're at the moment with the hull. As you can see, we've laid up 2-part epoxy fern compound to the port side of the hull. Once we've the rest of the hull done, we're going to sand that all fair. Once we're happy with it, then we're going to put on layers of epoxy barrier coat. Then we'll fit our new True Design composite through hulls and then apply anti-fouling. Now once that's done, the boat's ready to go into the water, but that will all be dependent on whether we have a working engine or not. So fingers crossed we'll get the engine going. So that being said, I'm going to leave this video here, guys. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's completely free and it would really help our channel out. And for other ways to support our channel, check out the links in the description below. Cheers!